According to online sources, early parenthood is defined as having one's first child before the age of 21. Join us in this 13th episode of It's a Quake, where we sit down with 4 youths to discuss the realities of being a young parent and hear them share their stories and how their experiences have shaped them.
It's a Quake. I come from a family that constitutes of 8 people. This includes my mom, dad, 5 siblings because I'm the second born. I spent most of my childhood in Katima Mulilo, in a home that I would describe as strict, considering my religion. But also it was a safe environment in a sense that despite most of the things that we're subjected to as children, how strict my religion is and whatnot, we're always made to understand, what we had to do, why it should be done that way and all this stuff. And then my teenage life, I spent it in Windhoek, considering that I had to come here for education. But I think coming to Windhoek was more challenging because now I'm not in the constraints of my home and all these other things. So now here you are exposed to, a different way of living. You're living with people that are not family and all these other things. So, yeah.
Childhood was pretty easy. I grew up in the Maruru. So I schooled, I did my primary school until grade 6 until I moved to the coast. Didn't really grow up in a strict home. It was quite balanced. My mom was the strict one, my dad was the easy one, so it was pretty cool. Yeah.
I grew up in the suburbs of Eros. I stayed with my grandmother. She was a housekeeper at the White, she was doing housekeeper. We were 7 staying in one bedroom, literally a small bedroom. And we also used to eat from one plate because that's what she used to get at the housekeeper's house. It was very friendly because I used to stay with my aunts and my uncle because my mom dropped me off there after she got pregnant. It was a friendly area. That time my grandmother was very local. We used to go, I used to be everywhere with my grandmother. We used to go at the, we used to call it lamba, where we go sit there, have our traditional drinks and stuff like that. There came in a point of life that the employer of my grandmother was too strict and she decided I can't stay there anymore. So when I was probably grade 7, I had to stay with my mother. Since I was not used to my mother, it was an uncomfortable space for both of us. It was only my siblings that stayed with her, and I was also very uncomfortable with her because we didn't have a sister and brother relationship. So it was very difficult for my mom and me to have a relationship. My father actually was the time he moved to Oshakati. He's a Oshiwambo. He moved to Oshakati. I didn't even have a relationship with my dad at the time, only probably phone calls and that's it. So I literally just grew up with my mom from there and started to live my life from my mom.
I have been staying for a while in Windhoek actually, but I'm originally from Khobabas side, one of the villages of Khobabas.
I'm a single lady at the moment, no one in my life currently.
I'm a single young man.
I am married. I got married in 2020 when I was 20 years old to a Muslim.
My highest grade that I've ended in was grade 9 actually, because I was actually suspended from school. It was like bad influence and all that.
My highest level of education is a bachelor's degree in journalism and media that I recently obtained last month.
I have a bachelor's degree in marketing at NUST.
I have grade 10 and only additional courses I did, like basic certificates, business studies. Yeah, that's my current highest education level. Yeah.
If I remember quite well, I gained sexual and reproductive education in high school, although it wasn't something that was emphasized in terms of the information that we got. You'd be told, practice safe sex, say no to sex sometimes, but then there was not a lot of insight that was given in terms of why should people do these things. And you know, it's always, people don't look at the bigger picture, especially I would say teachers in high schools. They tell you the bare minimum, but they don't emphasize to say why are these things important and why should they be given preferences, especially to teenagers that, you know, find themselves in situations where they're engaged in sexual activities.
When I first learned about the sexual and reproductive education was basically from grade 8, going up to like grade 12 in the subjects of life skills and a bit of life science.
I didn't at all. I didn't, not even from my family or my mother or at school. You know, my mom and my family were actually, let me say, sex talks were taboo for them. You getting your periods, they will also just look at you and just give you a pet or something like that. So sexual education for me was like zero, like none. I didn't actually know anything. Even if when I got my period, I showed my mom. She literally just gave me a pet. She didn't even tell me, Kucha, after this is what happened and stuff like that. So education for me was zero, yeah.
Have I ever sought advice on family planning? No. No, I have not sought any type of family planning information or education.
I have actually. Last year, I found myself in a situation where I went through a miscarriage. So usually when situations like this happen, you get advice from doctors to say that, especially I'm married, so obviously I'm sexually active. So they would advise you to, you know, want to heal mentally, emotionally, and also just physically. So they would advise you to take family planning, although it's not something that I took, but I was given advice based on it.
My baby daddy gave me advice to go take it. But the time we went there, the nurses and stuff talked in each other. Kucha, you are still young. What are you doing there? Go focus on your school and don't be with men. That literally discouraged me to not even go see a clinic or a hospital, because imagine the discouragement you already get from health professionals. And then I just left it until there.
24 years old, and I'm actually having a small baby, and she's now 1 year old.
I am currently 22 years old, and I'm expecting my first child.
I have one daughter, she's 7. She was born in 2019.
I have 2 children, a boy and a girl.
Well, I used to work, although I stopped working now because I just feel like I want to put myself in a situation where I'm able to concentrate on myself, and also considering the journey that I'm going through, I wouldn't want to put pressure on myself. So yeah, I'm currently not working.
Finding out if people don't have jobs for me. I walk often house to house, ask if they don't have cleaning work for yard work, so at least hike a yard. Then I get paid. But it's something actually. It's how I actually feed my child. It's how I buy for some diapers if I get here and there.
The time when I became a parent, my second born, I needed to move in with the father because I didn't have income, and my mom was kind of very strict. She said, leave my house because now you have broken the deal. And then I left to my children, baby daddy, and I stayed there with him. So he was the source of income to my both kids and me. Currently status, yeah, I have an income where I work, yeah.
No, I did not have any source of income at that stage, but at this stage, yes, I do have a source of income.
Okay, yes, becoming a parent was a choice that came from both me and my partner, because obviously being married, you know, you look forward to having a family and all these other things. So it's something that we looked at, and it's something that was planned, so to say.
No, me and my partner did not agree on having a child at that moment. It only happened later when we were aware of the whole situation.
No, because at the time he had a girlfriend and I was just the side piece. So it was not actually planned. So actually also when we did the do, we did it somewhere else while his main chick didn't know. So it was not planned at all. So yeah, even when the child came, it was just commotion at all times.
Finding out that I was gonna be a parent at that age was pretty scary because I don't know what was gonna happen. My future was not set out. I don't know how the parents were gonna take it. So it was a pretty scary moment, and then with time it just became easier. Obviously the parents were pretty angry at that moment, but yeah, with time they started to accept the whole situation.
I had so much anxiety. I also had suicidal thoughts. I thought about my family. I thought about the school. I actually just wanted to kill myself, because imagine I'm just grade 9 at the time, or I think grade 8, and I'm going to have a child. What will the kids say? What will my parents say? So I actually also tried different methods to kill myself at that point, because I thought my life was like literally over, because this guy already has a girlfriend. Will he even accept me? Will he even accept my child? So I tried different methods. It didn't actually work. Yeah, I was just living in an anxiety mode all the time.
When I found out that I was going to be a father, I didn't take it seriously. Because why?
In all honesty, I was quite happy considering the situation that I found myself in when I had a miscarriage. You know, it's something that I wouldn't wish upon anyone, because it puts you at the point where you not only get devastated, but you also somehow blame yourself, not knowing whether you contributed to losing the child and all these other things. So because I fell pregnant shortly after I had a miscarriage, I think a month after that. So me finding out that I was pregnant was something that came as good news. It kind of restored my hope. So yeah.
When my family actually heard that I'm a father, at first they were angry at me, because they thought like I'm still young, and really I'm still young. And for me, actually, I'm actually not happy about it, but it happened. It's done. And they actually, sometimes, how should I say, are they helping out? But sometimes it's all on my own.
Actually, I decided to tell my siblings first before I went to my parents. So when it came to my parents, my brother was there to support me. So I just sat them down and told them what had happened and what is happening now. And they took it pretty bad. They were really angry. They were disappointed. So yeah, that's another day that one has to live with, like the whole disappointment thing still there, but now they are actually happy about it.
I walked in the room while my mother was sitting there. She was eating, and then I just like said, these were the words I told my mother: "Mama, ek is swanger." And then the plate fell down. Then she just looked at me, and then she looked back. She took the phone and called the whole Windhoek of Namibia. And then everyone started to judge me. People were trying to call me and stuff like that. Then I ran out of the room. Then I went to my baby daddy. And then he was literally like, okay, we need to do a plan. We're just going to drink off the child. So I'm going to buy a ritually. And then you need to finish that ritually at once, so the child can just die. And then he bought the ritually. I tried to drink the ritually, but it was too strong. And then I asked him, can you not mix it? Then he said, no, the child must die. I cannot have more children. And then I tried to drink the ritually step by step until it finished, but it didn't work. And then he bought Orange Crush, he tried everything, but at the end, it didn't actually work. The child just remained there. And then I needed to go to ANC and stuff like that.
Some of the difficult sacrifices that I had to make as an individual is to grow up mentally. And I say grow up mentally because this affects your decision making. It's not the same how you go about this whole life process. You don't, in terms of finances, you don't look at yourself anymore, because now becoming, especially a young parent, you have to look at, how do I incorporate this whole thing of becoming a mother? How do I spend my finances? And considering a situation where I do not work, like I said, this means that a lot of pressure is put on my partner, meaning in terms of decision making also, there's so much that as a couple, as a married couple, things that you have to put in place.
Being a young father at my age is actually kind of struggling for me. I found it struggling because all you do have to think about is what you have done, and the baby, and what you have to do, how you have to live from now on, seeing people with their children, trying to be in the same shoes as them. It's a different story.
The sacrifices I had to make was like, there was one, I was looking for a sugar daddy to just sleep with a guy and said it's your child, a rich guy or something like that. But yeah, I found the guy, but we didn't sleep together. He just supported me like financially and emotionally and stuff like that. And like I said, the second sacrifice was for me to find different methods, like the health check ritually I needed to drink, the Oros crush I needed to drink, asking my friends what are different ways of dominating this baby so I can continue my life, and listening to the judgmental things from my aunt and the whole world, the school and everything. Those are the sacrifices actually I went through.
There were many sacrifices actually. I had to give up a lot of things, the nightlife that was basically just starting. Finances wasn't really, I couldn't focus on me anymore. I had to focus on the baby and my partner at the time. So, and school as well.
Becoming pregnant alone, you go through so many changes. In the physical aspect, your body changes. And these are changes that, especially being a first-time mother, you don't expect to see these changes, but you find yourself going through this situation. And most of the time, you have so many questions like, is this normal, or is it probably just me? Is there something wrong? And all these other things. And also mentally, because currently I am doing my honors degree, and I would say it's a bit challenging because of how people perceive you. Not a lot of people know that I'm married. So a lot of people tend to think, oh, so Muslims also have, sex before marriage and all those things. And these are questions that people don't come asking you directly. And, people perceive you in a certain way. And most of the time you hear these things from friends and all these other things. So it tends to affect you because, okay, eventually you start asking yourself, is it probably a decision that I took at an early stage in my life? Was I supposed to do this thing? And all this other stuff. So it does affect your mental and, physical state, as well as emotionally, because pregnancy comes with a lot of emotions.
How have I been financially affected? Actually, both positive and negative. Because on the negative side, I couldn't really do what I want or do what I set out to do, like at a young age. The positive side, it kind of forced me to grow up faster and to know how to use my money, financial education, like to focus on what's important and what's not important.
I would say my mental health, because at the time when my tummy was already out, I had to go write exam, and the fact that I'm writing exam, learners coming in the office, laughing at me, making jokes about it, really affected me, that I also failed my exam at that point, and really made me feel useless and just thinking that I will be no one in life because everyone is like judging me and stuff like that. My physical part is that I came to a point where I literally started to cut myself, because at that time I just wanted to see blood, because everything was literally like literally just sore for me. So I just wanted to see blood at all times and fighting. That time I was also staying with my mom, and then the guy that impregnated me, his girlfriend, literally came. She literally came like every day. We fought with my pregnant tummy, and I needed to fall. I had bleedings. The police came. All those physical fights and everything. Those were the things I literally had to go through. Yeah.
You know, already in the society in which we live, there is something that is, I think society deems certain things to be normal. And especially considering a situation where you're at varsity or any of this other, institutions, people want you to act or be in a certain way. So I found myself in a situation that, yes, I found myself in a situation where most of the time I would receive judgment from people. But okay, getting judgment from people is not the problem. It comes when this judgment comes from people that you consider your own, especially when it comes from family members. And, these are people that you expect to be supportive, be there for you, and all this other stuff. So getting judgment from them in terms of them thinking you took, decisions that you're not supposed to take, I think is what becomes something that is a pill that is hard to swallow most of the time.
When my girlfriend got pregnant, she was actually 18 years old. Now she's 19 years old. She doesn't actually school. I found her like that because the thing is actually at her side, things were also tough for her when her grandmother died.
Very much because I didn't have a job at that time, so I had to depend on my baby daddy. And for me to depend on my baby daddy, it was a struggle because for me to ask him something, he needs to come with words. Like, he would judge me, swear at me, and stuff like that. And the fact is also the point that I had to stay with him. It turned out to be an abusive relationship because I had to endure in abusive, physically beaten and everything and I didn't know where to go because my mom neglected me at the time. I needed to be in a situation where I'm getting very emotional.
Okay, I have received support from a few members from my family, my parents, my siblings. Could have been financial, moral advice, and just how to take on life in general.
My best friend has been one that has been very supportive, considering a situation where we are not from the same religion. She's Christian, and I expected, her understanding to be something that is different, to be a bit judgmental. It's something that I expected from her because obviously she sees things at a different perspective. But then she was very understanding, and she's someone that is always there. Like I said, pregnancy comes with emotions, and there are times where you honestly beat yourself up to saying you probably did something wrong and you're not ready, financially. There are times that you have to deal with school stuff, assignments, and all those things. But she's someone that is really there, and she makes it, her mission to constantly show you that you're not alone in this journey. And apart from that, just my parents, I think they are my biggest support system. They are always there and they would advise you, especially my mom. She would tell you, what to look forward to, the things that you should do and what you should avoid and all these other things. So, yeah.
Yes, I don't think so. I know so from my side because as I was, the time where I saw all this abuse happening to me, I just decided to take my kids and run. And just run wherever, and then I had to give them up for a certain point and just had to stay with a friend for that time and had to endure myself in upgrading my subjects and taking different courses, involving myself at different organizations for self-development. And just realizing that, peer pressure on how to solve issues like that, on how to say when to say no, on how to take care of yourself, it really helped me in that stage because it opened my mind, it opened my thinking and how I started to live on my own. Yeah, that really helped me at all times.
If there was anything that I would have changed in my past, I would have changed being naughty at school, staying with the bad friends, and would have kept up going with my grades.
Something that I would have done differently is maybe take up opportunities in life. I think starting with my tertiary education, I was quite reluctant on. I would go to school and not do anything in terms of, me being in the media field, not take up opportunities, do internships and all these things. I think at this point in life, these are things that could have helped me, just have more experience and all this other stuff. So if there's something I would have done, that would definitely be it. Because I think I wouldn't also find myself in a situation that I'm not, having something to call a job.
I'd say no, I'd say yes. If I said no, I'd say I wouldn't have the child, because I could have done what I wanted to do, like in high school years, like travel, just have fun, since I didn't really have fun in high school. But I'd also say yes, because it has taught me a lot. So I'm well prepared for life and its obstacles.
I would definitely say no to that guy and just like live my life and complete my school and concentrate on focusing on my self-development stages and not be too much like peer pressure. That time I was also at alcoholism because of all those dramas and stuff like that. So I wouldn't even have touched alcohol by that stage of my life and stuff like it. Yeah, definitely I would not even look at any men at that time.
If I would advise anyone to not be in my situation, in the same situation that I am, I would tell them to abstain from sex. Those ones that are in school, I would tell them to focus on their studies and finish with school.
The advice that I can probably share is that, especially for teenagers, I think it is very important, for them to be quite selective on especially decisions that they take as young mothers, because you find a situation where a teenager doesn't have a supportive partner, or a lot of guys, especially those that find themselves in school, they tend to be reluctant, or they tend to face away from these responsibilities that come with being a parent. So I feel like teenage mothers shouldn't find themselves in a situation where they feel subjected, to taking care of children and whatnot. So in order to avoid this, maybe just make decisions based on things that could, improve your life. And these decisions include you not engaging in sexual activities, especially when you're not ready, or if you're sexually active, to just take the necessary precautions, safe sex and all these other things.
Don't have kids at a young age.
As a young mother, I would tell young girls like they to really focus on their schoolwork and focus on their self-development. Men will always be there and they won't finish. And please listen to your parents. Our parents was in the stages that they had to go through and endure abuse, teenage pregnancy and stuff, even though they are sometimes talking as if they want to insult or those. I think listening to our parents, it also makes a big deal out of it. And please just focus on your school, focus on your education, focus on self-development. Men will never finish, they will always just stay there.
Now, it's important to recognize that early parenthood affects both the female and male adults in a variety of ways. But really, what remains essential is learning to develop a strong emotional and mental mindset to be able to support this new responsibility. We do hope that the stories and sentiments shared in this episode have left you with the need to develop a culture of informed decision making. From me, Joshua Hamunyela, this has been yet another episode of It's a Quake. We should keep the conversation going on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And until then, adios.
It's a Quake.